Hey, it's Jason with Threefold Solutions, and today we're going to talk about planning center check-ins and brother printers, and specifically how to get set up the first time you connect a brother printer to your check-in stations. And the specific printer we're going to demonstrate today and show you how to set up is the Brother QL-820 NWB. Kind of looks like this guy right here. And we're going to walk through your initial setup, the first time you turn it on, all the way through how to connect it to my check-in station and how to go through all the menu settings to get me there. Now we're going to focus specifically on Wi-Fi connections because with Planning Center check-ins, the Brother printers are specifically geared towards iOS and Android devices over Wi-Fi. So we're talking about connecting your Brother printer to your iPad or your Android tablet using Wi-Fi. We do recognize though, there is the opportunity here for Bluetooth connections as well. Now, I will say from personal experience and from talking to others who've used these with Bluetooth connections, you do have a little more inconsistency using Bluetooth connections. So we're not going to cover how to set it up with Bluetooth connections, but I do want to acknowledge there is the opportunity to connect these printers via Bluetooth. What we found though is usually when you're in a lobby full of other people who have mobile devices with Bluetooth turned on, is you do have an opportunity for inconsistency and some dropouts. So to avoid those dropouts, we've found that Wi-Fi tends to work the best. And one of the things to keep in mind when setting up your infrastructure, meaning your hardware, such as your network or other networking type of devices, it's smart and it seems to be more consistent when keeping these connected to your check-in stations when you use a separate network SSID that's specifically set aside for your printers and your stations. So in other words, you may have a public Wi-Fi that your congregation and other people use, or even a staff Wi-Fi that all of your staff people use. But if you have the capability and you have the knowledge to set up a separate standalone SSID or separate network that's specifically dedicated to your Brother printers and your check-in stations, you will have much less connectivity issues in the long run. So that's a best practice that we highly recommend if you're able to do that. Otherwise, let's jump in and take a look at how to get this printer set up, and then also we'll walk through setting it up and connecting it to your check-in station on an iPad. Okay, here we go. We're going to start off with the settings that you're going to see the first time you turn on the Brother printer. Now, this Brother printer again is the QL-820 NWB. Now, your printer may look similar to this, but it may be the Brother 810 or another variation of the Brother printer. We're specifically focusing on the 820 series, and the reason for that is because it has the LCD screen and it's easy to walk through. First things first, let's go ahead and turn the printer on. You're going to be presented with some options to set the language and the clock. So let's go ahead and click the OK button on the far right. And let's click OK for the language. We're going to choose English. And now we need to set the year. So go ahead and walk through using the up and down arrows, setting the year and the day and month. And then go ahead and set the time. Okay, now once you've set the language and the time, you'll go right back to the original start menu. Now remember this because you'll see this menu from time to time. The first thing we want to do once we get back to this label kind of setup or this initial label screen is go to the menu button and you're going to see settings. So the first thing we want to do is we want to walk through this and we want to click on WLAN. So scroll through using the up and down arrows until you see WLAN or WLAN. Click OK. And now you're going to see WLAN on/off. Click OK and turn this on. It's going to say turning on Wi-Fi radio. this is how we're going to connect the printer to our Wi-Fi network. Now notice it goes back to the WLAN original screen. So we're going to want to go ahead and make sure you click, because if it takes you away from that, you're going to have to click menu and you're going to have to go back to the WLAN using the arrows. Click OK. And now we're going to look for network mode, which is the second menu option. Whoops, I went right past it. So there we go, network mode. Click on that. And it's going to be set with a check mark next to direct mode. But in this instance, I want you to choose infra direct mode. So infrastructure direct mode. So go ahead and select that. Click OK. And notice it's going to take you back once again to the WLAN menu. That's okay. Just click OK, and it's going to take you back inside of this. And now notice that you've got some other menu options here, and one of those is infra manual settings. Let's go ahead and select that. And you're going to notice that it's going to begin searching for your Wi-Fi network name, or what they call the SSID. So as it's searching, we'll go ahead and let it do that. We're going to select our network name as soon as it presents us with that network name. Now, once it pops up here, you're going to want to use the option to scroll if you have more than one listed. Now, you may have the same network listed twice. Now, I believe this has to do with certain infrastructure settings, and certain hardware settings allow for 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz networks, and sometimes that shows up as two separate networks. In this case, just select the first one that you see with the name of your network. Now, as soon as you see that, you're going to be presented with a password screen. So once you've selected the name of your network, you'll immediately be taken to the password screen. Now, in order to change what type of character you want to input here, you've got to click on the menu button. So when you click on it, you're going to notice you're going to see these little squares up in the right-hand corner change as you click the menu button. This is how you choose the character that you want to enter. In my case, it's going to be all numbers. So I want you to go ahead, set your password now by entering all of this information. I'm going to do it here with mine. Now, as you start to choose, mine happens to be all digits or numeric digits, so I'm going to use the numbers. You go ahead and select the character and then click the OK button. That will open up your second opportunity to continue entering just as you've done. So in this case, we're going to continue and just keep selecting your characters. Now, if you need to change the type of character, you're going to have to click that menu button, whether it's an uppercase, lowercase, or digit, and even the ampersand for symbols. So remember, click on menu and you can change which digit or character you're going to be entering. So in my case, I'm going to keep going with the digits. Okay, as soon as you're done, the last character will show an arrow, kind of a bent arrow pointing to the left. Now, once you see that arrow, it's time to just click OK. It will accept your password. It'll display it. Click OK one more time. Now that you've done it, you should see the connecting screen and the spinning circle. And this is basically showing you that your printer is now connecting to your Wi-Fi network. If all goes well, hopefully you'll get taken back to the original initial screen of the menu. So give that a moment and let that continue to search. And once you see the connected verification, you've now connected to your network. Now that you've connected to your network, click the OK button and it's going to take you back to the initial settings menu. In this case, it's going to show WLAN. Now, at this point, your printer is connected to the Wi-Fi network. You'll now see a little icon up at the top that shows the Wi-Fi fan or the bars that shows you're connected. Now you'll also notice here that you will see the type of label that is installed, and you will see some additional menu options. But the date and the time should be listed here. And the next thing that we want to set up is on the station itself. Now we're going to demonstrate how to set this up on an iOS device. Now, if you're on an Android device, it will be similar and you'll be able to follow along as well, but there may be some slight differences. But for the most part, you can identify which buttons to click on from using the station. Now let's switch over to the station and see where we go from here. Okay, let's take a look at the first screen you're going to see. Now I'm assuming that you've already downloaded your Check-ins app on your iPad. Now in this case we're using an iPad, but maybe you're using an Android tablet. Either way, make sure you've downloaded the Check-ins app and you've got it installed. The first time you launch it, you're going to see this QR code. Now it says create a station, show this code to a leader. If you've already logged in to Planning Center, to the account that you have for Planning Center on your phone, feel free to go ahead and scan this code with your phone's camera and have it log into Planning Center automatically for you. But I'm going to show you a secondary option as well, which is clicking on the More Options button or link right below that QR code. Once you click on that, you're going to see a little code that's generated right across the middle of the screen there in the box. You're going to take this code and create a new station over on the web side of your Planning Center Check-ins account. Let's write down this code and let's jump over there. Okay, here we are in Planning Center Check-ins and we're on the desktop view. So the first thing I want you to notice is we're clicking on stations. We're basically viewing the existing stations, but we have this little launch station option in the top right-hand corner. So click on that launch station button. And you'll notice we've got the ability to either launch the app or activate the station. In this case, we're going to activate the station. Now, while I'm here, I will mention that right down here, you've got the ability to download different types of the app. So different versions of the app. So I'm on a Mac and it's going to ask me to download for a Mac. But there's also the iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows download links right here, just in case you need to copy one of those links and send it to somebody else. So just wanted to mention that. But back to the activating a station portion, if we click on the words activate station right here, we can take the code that we saw over on the other mobile station and paste that code right here. So for us, that code was 2C6754. And by doing that, we can also give this a name and set this station up. So we're going to set that station up real quick here. In this case, it's an iPad station. So I'm going to call it iPad station number 1. And just as a best practice, it's always good to give your stations a specific name and then also name your printers. We'll get into this a little bit more later in the video, but it's good and best practice to always have a station named with a corresponding name for the printer that's attached to it. It'll help you in the long run. Okay, so with this, we're basically going to just go ahead and not really bother with the quick station. I had one set up here previously, but I'm just going to go to the default self all events set up for the managed quick stations. We talk about quick stations in another video, but for this one, let's go ahead and just create station. Click on the green button. It's going to verify that your church name should come up when the code is found. So click on the blue button, yes, create it. And now we're going to see that that station, well, we'll get a success message, blast off. Your station has been launched successfully. So let's go ahead, click OK. And we now see that the iPad station number 1 is created here. Now you can click on this and change any of those settings. We talk about that in managing your stations in one of our other videos. But for this video, I'm just going to specifically go back to the iPad so we can walk through connecting the printer. Okay, we're back at our iPad. We're setting up our check-in station. We've got this station labeled iPad station number 1. You can see that down in the lower right-hand corner where the little wheel or sprocket is found. And right next to that is a little yellow triangle caution sign. And that's telling us that there's currently no printer selected or set up for this actual station. So now all we need to do is click on the little triangle And as soon as we do, now you may get this pop-up and you may see some other pop-ups as well. In this instance, we're going to see the printer listed here, but we have to get rid of the pop-ups. So where it says select an accessory, click cancel. Now, if you get any other pop-ups, it might ask you to allow access for Bluetooth connections. And it may also ask you for network settings or any other type of pop-up. Go ahead and read through those if you get them. And generally, you're safe to select OK. Now, right away, I see my Brother printer listed immediately at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. But before I do, you might notice there's a little kind of half circle or circle with an arrow in it in the top right-hand corner, just below the word done. Click on that if you don't see your printer listed. Sometimes we need to refresh. And when you click on that, it's just going to go out on the network. It's going to search for that printer. And if there are available printers out there, it's going to display it if it's not currently already showing you that printer. Now, in this case, we see the Brother QL-820 NWB, and it's got this little serial number next to it, or model number. That's important to keep in mind if you're using multiple printers. So in this case, we just have the one. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to set this up. So click on that printer and choose the labels that you want to use with your printer. Now, generally with these particular Brother printers, you're going to get some sample labels or a roll or two of labels. You're almost always going to be using the 62 millimeter type of label or size label. In this instance, I'm going to select the 62 millimeter black/red continuous, but you may have another label actually installed. Make sure you match up the label, and notice it says DK-2251. Make sure you choose the proper label. When you're making this selection, you might just leave it on 62 millimeter continuous. That might be a generic set of extra labels you've already purchased. That's the default setting, default label. Choose either one of those. But I'll also point out, once you choose whichever label you want to use, make sure down at the bottom you click on Print Test Label. When you click on that, you should expect to see your printer print a generic test label that you'll basically confirm either fits the proper size or doesn't fit the proper size. Okay, once this has been connected, we can click on settings in the top left-hand corner. It's going to bring us back to the settings that you see here, which are just your general printer settings for an iPad or Android tablet. Now, as you look through these, you can turn certain things on or off here, such as cut labels, every label. You can even go to the Brother printer troubleshooting from this screen, but then notice they also have a little bit of additional information for citizen printers. Now we're talking about the Brother printers here, but I just want to mention that in case you see that and it's confusing. And then right below the forced login, you'll notice that you also have a build version. Now, this is good to know if you're using the current version of software or not. It's just good to know which version you're using. This is one of the places where you can find it. Now that everything's been set up, though, we can click on Done in the top right-hand corner. So click Done. And now we go right back to the station. Now, the first thing you may want to do is you may want to go in and select somebody to print a label for. So in this case, we'll just go ahead and print a label. We'll check in one person. And then ultimately, when we're printing, we should hear our printer printing, which ours is doing right now. And you'll know that you've set up your printer successfully and have everything set to go. That should do it for setting up your Brother 820 printer on an iPad or Android station.